Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon. I'm a retired New York City police detective with 20 years of law enforcement. And guys and girls, if you like all things true crime related from a police perspective, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, so you will get all things DutyRon when I go live or upload another video. And guys, tonight I have two special guests returning to the show. Before I get into the guests, I want to show a little media. We are going to talk about the hunt for Brian Laundrie. It has been going on over in the Carlton Reserve the last 2 days. We had such a period of time where there was not much going on. There was talk of him being in the Appalachian Trail. There's talk, a lot of different things. We're going to get into a lot of this tonight. But before we go, I want to talk to my Patreon supporters and the channel members and all of the folks who subscribe and positively interact. It's what makes this community great, and I want to just give my thanks and praise to you guys for tuning in. We are over 109,000 subscribers, approaching 110,000. Now that could not be possible. That's no easy feat to happen without great people like you. And I can't overemphasize the importance of the community here and my appreciation. I really, truly respect each and every one of you, and I thank you for your feedback. The feedback on the intro that I introduced on my last video, and all of your feedback is just tremendous. So thank you so much for that. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the piece of media. This is just going to give you a little bit of an overview for what we're going to cover tonight. And basically, it's the hunt, it's the search for Brian Laundrie. And searching for Brian Laundrie is showing all of us that the FBI and the local authorities are really not sparing any expense at this time. So let's get right into it. I'll show you just a little bit of media and then we'll move forward.
Today marks 3 weeks since Gabby Petito's fiancé, Brian Laundrie, has been missing, according to his parents. His sister Cassie speaking, insisting she has no idea where her brother is.
No, I do not know where Brian is. I'd turn him in.
She also expressed a range of emotions, feeling worried about him, but also angry.
I would tell my brother to just come forward and get us out of this horrible mess.
Monday, Cassie also revealing to protesters staked outside her home that Brian flew home on August 17th, just 5 days after that fight he and Gabby had in Moab, Utah. The attorney for Laundrie's parents confirming in a statement to CNN that Laundrie flew home the 17th and returned to Utah on August 23rd to rejoin Gabby, and that, quote, Brian flew home to obtain some items and empty and close the storage unit to save money as they contemplated extending the road trip. Cassie says she saw Brian during that August 17th trip, but she says the last time she saw her brother was when he went camping with his parents at Fort DeSoto Park on September 6th, and there was no discussion about Gabby.
We just went for a couple of hours and we ate dinner and had s'mores around the campfire and left. And there was nothing peculiar about it. There was no feeling of grand goodbye. There was nothing.
Today, Gabby's parents and step-parents speaking out on Dr. Phil's show, saying they believe Brian is definitely alive and in hiding.
He's a coward. Anyone that lived in that house is a coward.
According to the police, Brian Laundrie's parents claim they last saw him on September 14th. They reported him missing 3 days later. When asked about her parents' involvement, Cassie told ABC,
I don't know if my parents are involved. I think if they are, then they should come clean.
Cassie says this is tearing her family apart, and it's not easy watching police question her brother and Gabby after a 911 caller reported their fight.
It's definitely painful to see everybody just be upset. It was pretty typical of them to argue and try and take space from each other, but people saying they saw public domestic violence, I've never seen anything like that from either of them.
Interesting, to say the least, folks. Interesting. What I found really most interesting about that short clip, and the reason I wanted to play it for you, is because you heard Cassie, Brian Laundrie's sister, not say, my parents are innocent and would never harbor a fugitive. She did not say, my brother would never do this. There was no even remote sticking up or talking up for her family. So, guys, without further ado, I want to introduce my next two guests. First, I have Lisa Lockwood. She is a crime analyst. She does so much great stuff on Law and Crime Network. Lisa, thank you for returning, taking out lots of time from your schedule to come talk with me and talk with my audience about the Laundrie Gabby Petito case. It's so great to see you.
Thank you, DutyRon. And this is all consuming, and that's all I talk about every single day. And I know you do as well, since this whole thing started, since there was suspicion regarding him. And when she was still missing, we didn't know where she was or what happened. So yeah, it's part of my life. And I imagine that all your viewers and your listeners are just as consumed and want the same answers we all do.
Correct. It's an emotional roller coaster. We have a 22-year-old and a 23-year-old that went out on a journey July 2nd. They left here outside my home area. I live on Long Island, as you know. So this is really something that hit hard with me because it's a local family. And they went out on this journey, and we have no answers. We have no answers from the potential, as they call them, person of interest. I think that's a bunch of hogwash. The suspect in this case is lawyered up and has not said a word. Came home on the 1st of September and laid his head down for 10 nights without calling the authorities, without calling the parents, without answering phone calls. This thing stinks to high heavens. I want to also introduce my co-host and somewhat like a star of this show, Detective Ed Wallace from the NYPD. He's a retired first grade detective with the crime scene unit. And Ed, we spoke about this, and we speak almost every day about this case. We're just still scratching our head, and we've got no answers. So I know you've got a lot to say about this, and I just wanted to bring both of you here together to kind of just get you guys feeling on this case.
Yes. Hey, Ron. Hey, Lisa, and folks, welcome back. Yeah, it's just a case that just never stops. The twists and turns at every minute of the day.
Yeah, it is confusing. Hey, Lisa, I want you quickly, if you can, just give some of your credentials to my audience for some of the folks and ladies who have joined. Just give them a little bit about you.
Sure. I am a Air Force veteran, went into the military after high school and served in Operation Desert Storm. Then went on to become a police officer, actually 911 dispatcher first while I waited to take the police exam, police officer, undercover detective narcotics, and also I served 5 years on our department SWAT team. So I left law enforcement, wrote my book, Undercover Angel, chronicling all those experiences working with the police and undercover and military, and then started serving as a law enforcement contributor, which is basically a crime analyst on all of these cases that we're discussing, from murder trials to abductions, missing people. And I love what I do. Even though I'm out of law enforcement, I still have my foot in the door in some capacity.
That's awesome. And when you were on with us last time, I got so much good user feedback. Everybody was like, when are you bringing Lisa back on? When are you bringing Lisa back on? And then when we started a few weeks ago, with the Gabby Petito case, my website was hits every day with questions and asking when I was going to bring you back. So that's why I reached out to you a couple of weeks ago. I know you were busy. Yeah. Ed, you want to just give a quick overview on your career? I know I have a whole book on you, but I'd like to, for the new people who are just tuning in, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, I spent the majority of my career, 15 years, in the crime scene unit, where I was promoted 3 times to detective first grade. I'm a certified senior crime scene analyst. I have certifications in fire investigations, post-blast investigating, shooting reconstruction, bloodstain pattern analysis, hazardous materials, weapons of mass destruction, and a few more. And after investigating close to 3,700 crime scenes and given testimonies in hundreds of trials as a forensic expert, I was transferred to the Counterterrorism Bureau, where I retired out of there. I retired in 2004, and I've been doing forensic consulting all over the world. I'm going to keep it short and sweet today, folks.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Ed. And listen, I really have a limited time, so we have about 40 minutes to cover everything that we're going to cover. Now, I want to speak quickly about some of the activities. Now, we saw the FBI, the Northport Police Department, just kind of slow and ramp everything down. It sent a lot of public confusion. There was a lot of folks who were sending messages and asking. I was watching WFLA Now with JB. This guy is doing 4 hours of coverage a day. I don't know how he does it. I don't know, Lisa, if you've seen some of his coverage, but man, this guy's live all day long talking about this case. And they had the helicopter up today, and they said because of resources and money constraints, they grounded the whirlybird. But there was activity at the Carlton Reserve, and folks were saying, why are they wasting their time at that reserve? And I often ask myself, what kind of intel do they have to have them keep going back into that area? Any thoughts on that, Lisa?
Well, I do. I mean, we had a vehicle that was left, okay? And then we had the parents who went back to retrieve it, and then they brought it back in the case that he came out of that reserve area and he would have a ride home. So that was our first indication that he may have been in that first spot. And then as the progression and intel started to happen, they decided to expand a little bit further. And we know how precarious that area is because of all of the flooding, because of the dangers that are there with alligators and wildlife. So they needed to get all of their resources together to start expanding. It's 24,000 square feet of land. So, I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
And I think that's the idea, is to make sure they exhaust everything in that region. So I think it is based on some type of intel that's keeping them there. But I'm also following Dog the Bounty Hunter. Yeah. And tips are still flowing in. And I say that we don't know. I mean, he could be in Mexico for all we know, but we don't have the inside track right now that the FBI has.
Yeah, I kind of feel, and I've had conversations with Ed about this, the parents, I feel like they really do have information, and they're not coming forward. They've invoked their Fifth Amendment. And I get it, as a law enforcement professional, we used to dread when someone would lawyer up because everything would cease at that point. So they have that Fifth Amendment invoked. They're using their attorney to send out messages. I feel that this showing by the dad going out and searching with FBI and the local authorities, Kiely Rodni, that's the father of Brian. I feel like that is sort of like a showing to the public that, hey, look, we're not as guilty as you think we are. We want to help try to find them. And what's your thoughts on that, Ed? Because you and I spoke a little bit about this.
Well, it's funny how he's just doing it now.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you would think if you were truly concerned for your son's well-being, that you would have been out there from the get-go.
Right.
Okay. And so I think it's more to do with his lawyer and giving him advice that, hey, we got to get out there in front of the public, and we got to turn this thing around and see if we can get some sympathy for you. Because right now everybody hates them. And so now he pops out of the house to go search for the son. Well, why didn't you do that from the get-go? If that was my child and he was missing, I would have been out there from day one.
Yeah, and the confusing part too is that this young lady, Gabby Petito, over 2 years resided in their residence with them. As parents, I know we all are very sensitive to this. When someone's residing in your home with your son, they become part of your family. So what's so confusing here in this case is that the son comes back, takes a plane ride home on I think the 17th, and then returns the 23rd back to Salt Lake City. Okay, that in itself is a little confusing, and that would raise a couple of red flags if I'm the parents, right? Hey, why did you leave Gabby back there and come back home? This bull crap of cleaning up a storage locker, you know how much it cost to have him fly back? You're not saving any money. So that story, to me, again, it's a bunch of, and I had to bleep that out to make this a family show. But, again, so he shows back up on September 1st without her. There's your second huge red flag. Now you got to be making phone calls. The parents are now calling them, coming into I think the second week or close into the September 11th, the phone calls started and they got no answers. You heard Nicole Petito, Gabby's mom, and you heard Jimmy Schmidt, her stepdad. And we don't even like to refer to Jimmy as a stepdad. They're all co-parenting, right? Joe, who moved down to Florida to be close to his daughter. I wouldn't even be surprised if Joe did a drive-by and went by the house, knocked on the door. We don't know. But with the Fifth Amendment invoked, when the Northport Police Department came knocking on September 11th or early September 12th, you're as a law enforcement, you can't drag somebody out of their house. You have people protesting out front with bullhorns saying, FBI should drag you out of the house. That's because of human nature. We care. We want answers. And, we saw the FBI ramp up and the local authorities ramp up down in the Carlton Reserve yesterday. I want to show a quick little piece from yesterday. It was drone footage. This is WFLA now. Please bear with a little bit of the commentary here, but I want you guys to just get a little peek at some of the activity that ramped up yesterday. And I'm going to just show this quickly. It's only a few minutes.
We'll stay up here and we're going to continue as we do our circles, seeing if we see any activity at this park. Right now, this is pretty much what we see. So, JB, I'll throw it back to you, but I'll keep the mic open and I'll listen for you guys. Back to you.
Eagle 8 HD's Paul Lamison here for us at the Carlton Reserve. Paul, we'll check back in with you here in about 90 or so seconds. Let's pass along what we know right now here for our WFLA Now audience.
Again, this was yesterday, folks.
On the WFLA app, as well as on Facebook and YouTube. To our audience here, we are going to be featuring your #HeyJB, #HeyPaul comments and questions here, but I want to pass this along. We did, of course, our due diligence in checking with Josh Taylor, who is the public information officer spokesperson for the Northport Police Department, on exactly what this is here today. Because again, as a reminder, this is considerably more activity than what we have seen here from our cameras, both on the ground and in the air. Considerably more activity today than we have seen really over the last week or so here. So about 14 vehicles, a drone.
I'm just moving it forward because I want you to see the drone.
Are staying down at the site where we first saw them. So again, that drone will just continue almost in a grid pattern. I've kind of lost where it went.
All right, so I just want to show you there. Okay, there it is. So this drone that you're seeing up to the right is not a typical drone. This is a winged drone, and I'm going to ask Ed to just comment on this drone and what the capabilities are and what would be the reasoning behind using this yesterday.
Okay, so this is a fixed wing drone as opposed to a multi-wing drone. And it's very similar to the drones that are used by our special forces. And it has a lot of capabilities, infrared being one of them, thermal imaging being another, scanning, tracking, target recognition. And what it can do is you can program it to do a specific search pattern, and it'll go back and forth along this park until it searches the areas that they want searched, and then the footage can be seen in real time, plus then downloaded, enhanced, and looked at in greater detail.
Yeah, and so you get a sight of that. It's a fixed wing drone. It cannot hover, and it is going to give you a full good information on the lay of the land there. So let me get back to my guests here. And I sense, Lisa, that the reason they went to the Carlton Reserve yesterday with this drone is to set up what happened today. And as we know, the dad was called upon. He was supposed to go out there yesterday. They called him off because they didn't have this good intel. I feel that the drone information was collected. It was analyzed overnight, and then they selected some of the areas that they are now searching today, which I'll fast forward and show. But any thoughts on that, Lisa?
Yes, I do think they found remnants probably of a campsite, and possibly multiple remnants of campsites. And the only person that would be able to help with that would be Brian's dad, Chris, because he camped with him before. So I think putting the pieces of the puzzle together, saying, does this fit what Brian would potentially build, or what he was taught to build with your family? So looking at maybe some of the discarded items, if they found any type of garbage, foods that were eaten. Did Chris eat these foods? I mean, did Brian eat these foods? And be able to ask him on the spot to ascertain whether or not it looks like something that Brian would have created.
Yeah, very good. Again, I think that these, the law enforcement have quite a bit of, there's quite a bit of responsibility here. They were, local law enforcement was supposedly keeping an eye on Brian Laundrie. And we know that the parents said that he left on September either 13th or 14th. They said the 14th, and now it's been backdated another day. So on the 15th, the police chief was asked, or the 16th, of September, the police chief was asked, do you have eyes on Brian Laundrie? And he responded in a news conference and said yes. And then the very next day, on a Friday, we come to find out they made the phone call to parents and reported him missing. It's a big black eye for law enforcement. And some people argue that this is all smoke and mirrors and a show. I know, Ed, you and I, again, we spoke about this. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, that would be a pretty expensive show to put on.
Yeah, 24/7 surveillance on this person would be definitely expensive. And at that time, the crime wasn't committed in the jurisdiction in Florida. It was in a different jurisdiction. Okay, and so there might have been a jurisdictional spat between agencies about who's doing what, and who should be there and who isn't there and should be there, things of that nature. I mean, did the feds take the lead? And if so, why weren't the feds there watching him? I mean, this occurred on federal property, right? It was a federal park. So the crime didn't occur in Florida, but the suspect came back to Florida. And would you expect the local police to do a 24/7 surveillance on this suspect for another jurisdiction? Were they asked? Well, they obviously said they did, and they didn't. Okay, they weren't watching them, and so one of the worst things you can do is give a press conference and give bad information, and then get called out on it the next day.
Right. Yeah, it's like I said, it's a black eye for law enforcement, and nobody likes to see this happen. But again, we're human beings. We're not robots or machines, and they're trying to do the best that they can to apprehend this suspect. And again, I spoke to a couple of folks like Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff. He's a retired homicide detective sergeant. And we spoke about too the fear in the public if they were to put out and say, we want to talk about the autopsy. And some people are very upset that they're holding back the autopsy results and her cause of death. Was she shot? Was she strangled? Was she stabbed? People want to know this. But when law enforcement and FBI and local, state, federal authorities come out and put out information like that, it adds to public alarm. It adds to people saying, hey, we have a murderer on the run. So for them to label him, and I'm sure that they have enough evidence right now to label him as such, but they're not doing it for very good reason. And it could be for other reasons, legally, and to bring charges forward. They want to make summary arrest, they want an indictment, and they want a conviction. And to get those three components, you can't have a sloppy investigation. So they're doing everything that they can with the FBI to dot their I's and cross their T's. And I know, Lisa, you've seen this many, many a time.
Right. And you have to hold the cards close to your chest in a lot of these matters, because revealing the cause of death, we know that we want to be able to pin it on the right person. And if it's not disclosed, and let's just say Brian later on tells somebody how she was murdered and it was never disclosed, then we succinctly know that he was involved. And we've seen this in many other cases where it was never disclosed, and the bad guy, the murderer, ends up saying it to somebody. So loose lips sink ships, and that's the reason that they want to hold it tight.
Yeah, I agree. Ed, any extra on that? Would you want to put anything into that?
Well, it's a couple things. There's a warrant out for his arrest for the use of the debit card. Okay. Now, if it gets picked up on that warrant, okay, plus he already has counsel. So, he has a right to counsel, and he has counsel already. So they're going to be very limited in questioning him. If he's picked up on the warrant and he has counsel, it's going to be very difficult
to question him on anything but the charges. Now, it was alleged, and some people I've heard and I've seen in some of the chat rooms, and kudos to all my live chatters. I appreciate you guys being in here in the comment section. Some folks are saying, well, how do we know he used her card? Well, on that federal warrant, they listed a Capital One credit card. So this is an account that obviously Gabby Petito had. They have full disclosure and full information from the banks. They're not going to come out and label and name a actual brand credit card. So some people are saying, well, what if it was somebody else's credit card he used? No, it's Gabby's credit card. I mean, common sense here, folks. Is there a possibility? Yes, it's very slim that it would be somebody else's. Brian Laundrie is the number one suspect. I don't like this person of interest nonsense. I know it's used, and it's used throughout the media and throughout all over the place. That's all you hear. But as a seasoned investigator, it just makes me cringe when I hear that, because
they probably have video evidence on him, either at an ATM or if he actually went into a bank and used it inside of a bank to pull the money out of the account.
Right.
There's going to be video evidence someplace on that. It's not just that he used the card.
Right. Joe Murray, our criminal defense attorney, has chimed in with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Joe. He says, perhaps Brian Laundrie was already charged with murder on a separate indictment, but they kept it under seal and only unseal the credit card indictment. That's a great comment. Thank you, Joe, for that.
That is a big possibility.
Yeah. Joe, I'd love to have you come on. Maybe I'll send you a link, but I know you're doing double time with Police Off the Cuff, and I don't want you to charge me overtime. I'm $500 an hour. Pretty stiff. It's a pretty stiff price tag for Crime Time with DutyRon. I'm not quite there yet. Let me look at some of the other super chats. Joe sent in another one. Oh no, that was separate. Here, Angie Davison sends in, can infrared penetrate through those thick trees? I had Gene Robinson on, and he said with the right equipment, with the right technology, yes, but it does cause some challenges with that. That's pretty thick there. So I don't know. Can you speak on that, Ed?
Well, infrared has certain capabilities, and then thermal imaging has additional capabilities, but it's the heat signature that you're looking for. So it should be able to see through the tree canopy. If it's military grade, like I suspect, because it looks exactly like the drone that's used in our special forces, and that has that capability of getting right through that canopy and getting that heat signature of animals or anything that's alive and moving below it.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, Gene Robinson from SA Drones and Search and Recovery in Houston, Texas, he's a guru on this stuff. And he talked about this bird, and he said the capabilities of this thing is unbelievable. I think Tampa PD owns that. And it's the only law enforcement agency in the state of Florida that has that technology. If you go back to my last drone special that I did with Gene Robinson, him and I talked about this, and we showed the capabilities of this bird. It's just unbelievable. But he did say that the thick brush does pose some challenges for the equipment. But again, I feel that they set this up, and the reason I played this for the folks is because law enforcement, when we're doing investigations, we want as much information as we can. And the reason they went back there today with Brian's father is not to say, hey, kumbaya, and let's hug it out. It's to see what they can get from him, because now if he's out there, a spontaneous utterance or anything that he does that they don't ask him for, or anything he says can be helpful to them. But I don't know. He could have been advised by his attorney to go out there and not say a gosh darn word. So we don't know because we don't have access to what happens out there today. But I have some footage that I want to show you guys of the dad out at the reserve. He drove his car out there. Let me see if I can cue this up. Yeah, here it is. He's assisting law enforcement. Let me show this quickly. I'm having some issues with stuff, a little skipping here, but we're going to see what we can do with this. All right, there we go. Full screen.
Where he normally goes.
All right, just to set this up, this is the father's truck out at the Carlton Reserve.
But again, it's up under those trees, and I'll show you where we are. But here's the beginning of the park.
This is the father from today.
Which is where they feel they came across it. Once you're across it, you're actually into Carlton Reserve. Now, I'm going to try to get you one more shot of the truck.
That's how big and expansive this Carlton Reserve is.
And JP, this is what they're looking at out here as well. The difficulty we're having just finding a truck. Imagine if you're trying to find a person who doesn't want to be found out in this area. That's what we're dealing with.
This pilot is good. I like him.
So here you go, JP. I'm going to go out look out the door. And we're going to give you the truck right here. Hang on. Right here. Sorry about that, JB. Hang on.
It took
Right
him
in here. Here's the truck.
It took him all that time to find it. And that's the father leaving on the right.
JB.
Yep, and right side of your screen, the clip from this morning.
This is the Laundrie truck. This is the one that tows the camper. This is the one that's always in front of the house. Now, he's not in the truck. He has gotten into law enforcement vehicles and gone out into the reserve, and that's what we've been trying to find earlier, and we haven't seen any other vehicles. But right there is a shot of his truck. We'll give you that for a minute. Then we're going to go across and head into the reserve and go to the south where he normally goes, apparently. So here's the truck, JB. We'll let you look at it for another couple minutes. But this is the entranceway to the Myakkahatchee Environmental Park, which is just right next to the Carlton Reserve.
All right, what's so interesting about this is that that is obviously a selected spot. He's parked under a tree out of the sun. He's back parked in there. That's not just a random spot that they went to. Now, there's word that that's where the son used to frequent, or some of his favorite camping areas and things of that nature. But I have a feeling that the drone footage from yesterday led them to that spot, and they are searching in that area based on some of the footage that they got. It's just my thoughts. Or this could be just the father leading them on this wild goose chase that we people are speculating could be happening. I don't know. You know, for me, I scratch my head on this because there's just so many possibilities of what could be going on here. And, you know, folks are talking about a bunker in the backyard. Listen, if we see people talking about this on Facebook, bunkers in backyards, you can bet your bottom dollar that the FBI would be there in a moment's notice and be searching at that bunker. So don't go down those rabbit holes of these Facebook rumors and things of that nature. There's no bunker in the backyard. That's just, to me, hogwash as well. And
there's not many basements in Florida. The water table's high. It's sand.
It's a planter box in the backyard. I've seen it. People keep sending me pictures of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not putting anybody down that thinks that. You could think whatever you want, but I'm just telling you, reality is that the guy's not living under the ground. He's not in his backyard living under the ground. We need to just move past that. And again, the people who are fixated on that need to just do a little reevaluation of this, because if you're looking at it and people are talking about it, they have their internet folks who are monitoring. They're monitoring here in Long Island the activity on all social media, and they're monitoring everything that's going on across the globe. So, any thoughts on that backyard bunker, Lisa?
Yeah, I mean, how many search warrants did we do at the Laundrie residence already. They did a complete perimeter. I would imagine that everything was checked out regarding that and the property and surrounding area. So if I can add one thing, that it just brings me right back to the beginning of this case, the September 1st, his return home. The thing that bothers me so much about this, as far as Brian's parents go, he returned without her. Now, let's just say he had an alibi. Well, we got an argument. She wanted to stay there. She met a friend. She wanted to stay there. And the parents potentially buy it because they've seen them argue. They're saying they never saw them violent together, according to Cassie, the sister, but they knew they argued. So if they thought that, yeah, it was an argument and she decided to stay on, then the parents are really off the hook if that was the lie that Brian decided to tell. But if it's the alternative where something happened and they're covering, then that's a whole different thing. But I can't imagine them just going out and having a good time camping, setting it up for the 2nd through the 5th or 3 to 6, and then doing it again with the sister. If they knew, I just really feel that there was a good alibi that Brian gave on why he did not return home with her.
Right. And the whole s'mores party just didn't sit well with me. We go out there for 6 hours and have some s'mores and have the nephews and the nieces come out there and everything is honky dory.
Right.
If something seemed fishy, there's no reason to go out for a camping trip with Gabby just missing, unless they believe some cockamamie story that the son gave them. And what were you going to say, Ed? I'm sorry that I cut you off.
Yeah, no, this is where the phone records come in now. You have to get a hold of those phone records. I'm sure they have them. The phone records between the son and the family, the length of time, the number of times, the length of the conversations, so forth and so on. Right. To try to get an understanding of this. And you know what? We never really spoke about it before, but if you have what is it, Alexa or any of those types of things in your house. Right. Those things are listening.
Yeah.
And they're recording. I hope that, if that was in that house, that the FBI got warrants and is trying to obtain anything that may have been recorded in that house between them.
Right. And that may have been one of the items that was brought out in the bags that we saw them coming out with the boxes and boxes, pouring rain. I want to move to some of these super chats because I appreciate these folks, and I backed up. So Sophia Manatee sends in a $10 super chat, and she says, is it possible that the parents are angling for a deal by assisting law enforcement? ? Is it possible that the feds indicated that they know the parents aided and abetted in some way and amped up the pressure? I'll take that, because I think that there's always room through their lawyer. The parents are not going to angle for anything on their own. They are represented by legal counsel. So if any type of leverage or anything would be bartering and going on, it would be through their attorney. But I think at this time, I don't think that they're doing any kind of cooperating besides the lawyer advising them, hey, this is a good look. Go out and search with them. What's your thoughts on that, Lisa?
Well, here's what I think. I think the FBI did need Chris. I really do, based on going out the day before, having that incredible drone, doing what it needed to do, and then making the decision, we want him here. And that was coordinated, obviously, through the attorney. So they needed him. I really, truly believe that. And I don't think it was a matter of them trying to look good in the public eye. Maybe the attorney said, yes, we do want you to go ahead and go forward and do this and help try and find your son. But I don't think it was angling. But charges against the parents, yes, I believe that that's a potential down the line. And I think their attorney's doing what he can, the best he can, to protect them right now.
There you go.
I think the parents were lawyered up before the FBI got to them.
It's true.
So I don't think that the lawyer would have let them get into a perjury trap or a charge of lying to the FBI 1001 of the criminal regulations, which they typically use to get people with. And I don't think the FBI got to them with that. So I don't really see that the FBI had much leverage here to force him to do this. But, he has a lawyer, and they went through the lawyer, and they all agreed that he would come out and help.
Yeah. And you know what? Listen, we all hope and pray that the parents will lead them to where their son is, if he in fact is out there hiding. There's also something that we didn't talk about, is there is a chance that he did take his own life. Now we don't wish that upon our worst enemies, and we don't wish anybody to take their own life. But this is a 23-year-old that is facing a huge legal mountain to climb. And he could have very well have taken his life. And all of this searching is just part of what the law enforcement component does. It doesn't matter what what the obstacles are. Right? They're going to search a 25,000 square acre the park. They're going to go to other parks. They're going to do whatever they have to do to bring him to justice, dead or alive. So this is a search that is costing the taxpayers millions of dollars, and we've estimated that it's multiple millions of dollars that has gone on here in 3 weeks of searching for this guy since September. Really, it started after September 11th. Out here in Suffolk County, you had the Suffolk PD, who was probably still assisting in electronic surveillance from here on the home front. Don't forget the Laundries. The reason their attorney, I believe, is from Long Island is because the kids grew up here, and the parents had a home in Blue Point, in the same town that Gabby Petito's mom lives in. And they have ties here to Long Island, New York, and their attorney practices in New York and in Florida. So there was a lot of people saying, why does this guy have an attorney from New York? And we know that attorneys can have multiple licensed by the bar in multiple states, right? Lisa, I know you've run into this many a time, right?
Oh, for sure they do, and it's smart to do that, obviously, to be licensed in multiple states. It's a financial incentive, no doubt about it. But especially in a case like this, think about it. When you have a lot of the snowbirds that are coming from New York and headed down to Florida, you're going to be able to protect them both sides, even when they retire.
Oh, yeah.
My sister was a former assistant district attorney in Queens, and she went to the dark side and does defense work now, like Joe Murray. But she's licensed in multiple states.
I'm sending Joe Murray, against my best wishes, I'm sending him a link to join us, because he always has some great criminal defense side to it. Now, he always throws my chat into a tizzy, because everybody loves to hate a good defense attorney. But I just sent you the link on text message. So if you need me to send it by email, I will, but I'd like to have you join us just for a brief minute, because I know you got a lot to say. And I don't want you to keep sending me super chats, because I know I get a bill for that. He sends me $50 in super chats, and I get a bill the next day. Because, in addition to my services, here's all the additions, the super chats. So. But all kidding aside, we do have a tremendous investigation that's going on, and the amount of manpower, overtime, resources, the helicopters, the drones, overtime paid, you're talking about a huge on-taking on the state, federal, and local. And you got the wildlife, the fish and game authorities are in these national parks doing these searches.
It's true. By all estimates, $150,000 to $200,000 a day is what we're looking at.
Yeah, so there you go. Joe Murray is sending again another super chat, $5. Ron, someone at the Department of Justice must have heard me calling them out for being sloppy, because they filed an amended arrest warrant. This is what he's been trying to tell me.
Yeah.
They filed an amended arrest warrant. I didn't see this with the proper criminal statute. So I'm hoping that he'll come on and set this straight, because Joe is combing over all the legal on this. He's really like my legal team. And Joe Murray, I bet you he's going to get his jacket and his suit on. He was probably in his pajamas, and now he's like, oh, I gotta get myself all ready. But yes, $250,000 estimated daily on the search for Brian Laundrie. We just want answers. The general public, we want answers, and we want them yesterday. The family is in turmoil. The daughter's body has not been released by the coroner, and I had Barbara Butcher on, the chief of staff from the New York City Medical Examiner's Office. We did a video with her, and it almost got 2 million views. We were talking about the potential for the outline of Gabby Petito's autopsy and what they would look for. But she said there's no reason to hold a body once you've completed an autopsy if you did it the right way.
Well, I can think of a reason, Ron.
Okay, let me hear it. I want to hear it.
They're not releasing the cause of death. If you release that body to a funeral home, they're going to know what caused her death.
Okay.
And now they can't control that information.
So family agreed, because when I went to the funeral, I went to the funeral home in Suffolk County in Holbrook. I thought, because people were talking, I was waiting on a 2-hour line to get in, and people on the line and everybody was talking, and they said her remains were there because there was an urn there. So I, in my own mind, I didn't completely verify it, and I reported that her remains were there. And then we come to find out the next day that that her remains weren't there, and they were holding him over in Wyoming. But that definitely makes sense, Ed. And
the family's cooperating with the FBI and the coroner, saying, "Hey, hang on to the FBI doesn't want to release this information. Hang on to the body. We don't want to release it either," and so forth and so on. Because once that body goes,
once it says homicide on there, they're going to want to know the manner of which, asphyxiation, gunshot wound, stabbing, sharp object, etc. So, yeah, that's right, Ed. Forgot about that.
Right. So let me go to the chat quickly while we wait for Joe Murray, because this is going to be good if he comes. And I think he said, give me a minute. Oh, there he is. Let me just highlight this one comment, because it's coming in from Reverend Jesse Abel, Christian Life Coaching. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. He says, us Long Islanders stick together. Amen to that. We definitely do. Joining us is our criminal defense attorney, Joe Murray. You have Lisa Lockwood up in the right corner, and Eddie Wallace right next to you. Joe, thanks for joining.
Oh, great to be here. It's always a pleasure. And I came up with these just thinking about this case. By the way, hi, Ed and Lisa. Enjoy watching you. I love DutyRon show and all the guests, and I'm happy to be here with you. But I got to tell you, just thinking about this, I was really beating up the FBI and the DOJ. They were so sloppy in the way they proceeded with this case. Ron, I sent you an email with a couple of these documents. Any way you could just open that and share your screen, or how you do that?
Yeah, I'll do it. Just keep talking, and
I'll explain it. So I attacked them at first because the first arrest warrant cited the wrong statute. It was a subdivision. And I was like, how do they do that? I mean, this case is so high profile. How do they screw that up? And they took it from the indictment to the arrest warrant, and they had the wrong statute. So they filed subsequently an amended one with the right statute. Okay. They also moved to unseal this indictment for the credit card, the unauthorized access device, calling it what it is, charge. And then the very next day, they moved to seal it, and the very next day they moved to unseal it. And I thought to myself, I said, is it possible that they had the same grand jury hear both charges? Not to be on the same indictment, because they really are separate crimes. He was out of state when he used that credit card, I believe, because it was between the 30th and the 1st, which leaves him only the 31st in between there. So I think he was already long gone. So maybe they charged that on one indictment and then presented their evidence for probable cause on the homicide, whatever charge they thought fit, probably murder, and left that sealed. See, they probably sealed both of them, because the grand jury is a secret proceeding. It never gets revealed until they unseal it. And usually that doesn't happen until the arraignment. So they probably had moved to seal both of them. And let me just make that clear. I don't know if there's a second indictment, but there could have been, where they left them both both sealed. And then if you look at document number 6, is that 6?
No, this is page 1. Let me just continue on. Hold on a second. Where is it?
You'll see
minute.
Motion to unseal indictment number 6.
All right. So is this in chronological? What you sent? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, that's Doc 7. Doc 6.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay, got it. All right.
Okay.
So I'm gonna make
So
it big so everybody could see it. So you want me to highlight the top here? This is from.
no, we're gonna go right down to the bottom.
Okay.
Where it's yeah,
Is
right
that
there.
Robert Murray? Is that in relation to you here, Robert?
No,
Murray?
that's the attorney that represents the government. So no relation that I know of.
All right. I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
All right. How come I can't get to the bottom of this thing?
No. You are at the bottom. Right in the middle where it says motion to unseal. Just read that. United States by and through its attorney, Nicole M. Romney, Assistant United States Attorney for the District of Wyoming, respectfully moves this court for an order unsealing this case on the grounds that 1, law enforcement has articulated a reasonable belief that unsealing the indictment will assist in locating the defendant, and 2, the government has no reason to believe that unsealing the indictment will create any public safety or investigative concern. So if you think about, they have 2 indictments that are usually sealed before the apprehension is made. Perhaps someone in the FBI said, hey, you know what? It might help if we just show that he has been indicted, but only for the credit card charge, kind of like to lull him in, like we don't have a case on the homicide. I don't know. I mean, I just think it's, the alternative is, like I said on your last show when I was just trashing them, I said, this is the dumbest move. They are making so many sloppy missteps, but maybe there was an indictment and it just hasn't been unsealed and they're leaving it there like playing possum. What do you think?
What's your thoughts on this? I'll let Ed take that first and then Lisa.
Well, I'm glad Joe is here. So, Joe, I'll ask you, if there is a warrant, unsealed indictment rather, for murder, and they pick him up, does his right to counsel kick in on that charging document?
It's not the charging document. He's already retained counsel, and
Right.
I'm sure provided a representation letter outlining the scope of it. I don't know. I haven't seen that letter, but I imagine it would be something of the missing person, Gabby Petito, and anything related to that, just widen it to that. So I don't see how they would be able to pierce that, attorney-client privilege
Yeah.
by arresting him and then questioning him, because, you can, as a detective, if it's a separate charge, like if I represent you on a robbery and you get arrested, on a homicide, that's not outside the scope of our relationship. So, they could.
Joe, my question would be this then, because we already know that after they found the remains, initially they said, we don't know. And then they had the autopsy and then we knew it was a homicide. So that has already been out in the public, and Brian is well aware of that, parents, family, and everybody surrounding him. So just because the indictment is not there, Brian already knows that they're looking for him for this, smaller charge, but he knows that it's been discovered that she has been killed. So I still believe that I like where you're going. I get that as a potential, but the fact that in the eyes of public opinion right now and everybody else in that matter who's looking at this case, they know they're looking at Brian for the homicide.
Yeah, I see where you are with that, and I don't disagree. I think it's pretty obvious what they're doing, but the fact that they're not showing that indictment or revealing it, that to me is interesting. And it's one of two things: either that autopsy after 23 days, the decay and possible state that, without being graphic, the state of that body, it may be very difficult. And I also want to point out, this is a couple that had a very public domestic incident with scratches, you know, to the face and stuff. So I think if they do find DNA, it's defendable. How do we know that's not from the domestic and it's not from the attack that led to her demise? I mean,
right, I agree.
So many areas. We know of no witnesses. That doesn't mean there are none, but witnesses who could at least put him in the van at that time, even if they didn't see him kill her, but maybe carrying something out there. You know, like we don't know so much information that they may have, but for a prosecution with no witnesses and just a body and the circumstantial evidence of being on the scene or close to the scene, that's not enough. So they have to have more, but it's a tough case right now. And I see a lot of defense issues that, you know, could be troublesome. So my thinking is either they're just taking their time and just being methodical about putting it together, or perhaps because they did that autopsy, you know, and Barbara Butcher was excellent. She's like, you know, as soon as you're done with that autopsy, how that person died. You know, and I'm sure they communicated with, you know, the FBI and the U.S. attorney. You know, I'll call my cousin, who's the U.S. attorney, and I'm only kidding. So
the toxicology should have come in by
maybe
now,
they
too.
did present it. They presented it to the same grand jury, but indicted it separately because they really are separate crimes. You know, that's a possibility.
We got this super chat coming in, which is a very good question. What's your thoughts as to why the parents canceled camping September 1st to the 3rd and then went 6th to the 8th? I wonder what could have been going on. Very good question, and thank you for that super chat, the Ken Ab. That would just be sheer speculation on all four of us.
Yeah, it would
be. Each one of us will have a different thought process on that. And you know what? Your guess is as good as ours of why they canceled that. Now, it's always been argued in the public eye is that what person would go on a camping trip knowing that somebody from your family, and I said this earlier in this stream, if someone's living with you, they become part of your family. She's been there for over 2 years living in Northport. That is an extended family member. That is one of theirs. And to have Cassie, the sister, just come out and come onto her front lawn against what the FBI asked them to just be quiet, and counsel, actually not the FBI, counsel asked them to be quiet, and actually FBI, I heard, asked them to be quiet about it. They came out because they had people protesting and scaring their kids, but at no time did they say, my brother's not capable of this. They didn't say, my parents are good people and they would not ever harbor a fugitive. If they knew my brother did something wrong, they would come forward. She said, if they are guilty, then they should be charged. That's not how families that are close-knit are supposed to work. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa.
Right. She's being tortured. Her own personal family, her children are, you know, they had protesters out there for so long. She wanted to speak, and she's thinking right now, like, you know, listen, they lawyered up. Now I'm involved in this, and why don't they just talk? That's why I truly believe she was in the dark when she went on that camping trip. Well, she wasn't there for the whole trip. She was there for the few hours. She visited, he had playtime with his nephews, and then went away. I would like to just offer my one opinion regarding the camping trip and the cancellation. He returned home on September 1st, and we don't have the correspondence and the phone calls, like Ed had said earlier, to try to find out when that was set up, when it was booked. Was it anticipated that Brian was going to be home sooner and they were going to go, but then he didn't get home until the 1st that day, and he wasn't going to turn around and go out camping right away? Maybe that's when he offered the story about why he didn't return with Gabby, and then they rescheduled it based on that.
Right. Yeah. Very good point. You know,
Ron,
Ed, I know you got a lot to say, so go for it.
You know, I live my life by reasonableness, and I look at the world in terms of reasonableness, and everything about this and the way the family's acting and is just not reasonable. Right. Everything associated with this is just not reasonable. Their reactions, what they've done, right. You know, the lack of conversations between one family and the other family. Right. You know, it just stinks to the high heavens.
I agree 100%. And Joe, I wanted you, now that we have a defense attorney that's billing at $5.50 an hour now, I just got the update from your assistant. Jesus,
Oh,
$5.50. Come on, Joe, you're killing me. All kidding aside, what's going on with this attorney that's representing the Laundrie family? Why did they hire someone from Long Island? What's your speculation? What's your thoughts? I know you're in that, realm of attorneys. You're practicing in Long Island and in Queens. You're all over the state of New York. What are you hearing? Why did they choose this Bertolino, or whatever the hell his name is?
great question. And I get asked that a lot because, somebody even mentioned to me that he's like a real estate lawyer. He's not even a trial criminal lawyer.
Wow.
So I simply said to them, listen, at this early stage, there wasn't even any charges levied against anyone. But at this early stage, the most important quality in a lawyer that you would look for, because again, I'm just going to say it again to emphasize this, there was no court case, there was no charges, there was nothing, is someone who can explain and articulate and act based on your fundamental constitutional right of the Fifth Amendment. You're represented by counsel, and just somebody to be that in-between buffer.
Right.
That would probably be someone that they either have a relationship with somehow, either directly or through a third person. Hey, you know what? Call this guy. He's great. Talk to him. He's not going to try this case. He's not going out to Wyoming if something happened, but he'll protect you right now. And that's what you need right now. Somebody at your house to deal with any law enforcement who can not at your house, but to help you right now at home, because you're going to be confronted by all kinds of law enforcement. And the reason why the relationship is the most important thing right now, trust, confidence, that this person's not going to reveal anything. It's such an important thing. Attorneys cannot, but you want somebody that you can ensure is going to give you the proper advice. Like I said, I've done this numerous times. I've been in this situation, not this, out-of-state murder case, but where the government is looking for someone, whether it be state, the NYPD in the city, or federal government, will approach and say, look, do you represent so-and-so? And I'm like, yeah. We'd like to talk to you, and talk to your client. Would he come in because we have this issue? And, that's a very important conversation that you have to have with your client. And there's generally like 3 ways you can go. We have Queen for a Day available. If Brian came back to me and said, look, I'm not into this. I don't want to get arrested. She's already called the police on me once, and I could have been arrested there. I don't want to deal with this. So I told her I'm leaving. And she said, take the van because I don't feel comfortable driving it. Okay. And he drives home. So he really has no idea what happened. Right. If that's the case, that's a perfect case for Queen for the Day. You walk in there, you sign a contract. Anything you say cannot be used against you. If they decide after investigating it, no, we still think you're involved. Ordinarily, any statement you make to law enforcement would be used at trial, that the officer can testify. Yeah, I met with him on such and such day, and this is what he said.
Right. So the long short of this is that they more than likely retain this attorney just to give them their constitutional right to the remain.
Yes, just for the initial buffer, not to be able to pierce that.
And if we see Brian Laundrie brought in, I would imagine that we would see some type of high-powered criminal defense attorney that would have a background in defending against.
They already called me, and no, I'm only kidding.
Oh boy, Joe's on standby. Well, Joe, let me say this: if you are retained, I will act as your security team because you're going to need one. Anyways, listen, we're at the hour mark, so I want to turn to the live audience, if you guys don't mind. Lisa, do you have another 5?
Sure. Yes.
I want to just say thank you to the live chatters. You guys are awesome. And I said it in the beginning of the video, without the live chatters, we have no community. There's 3,400 people here in the live chat. And I am just checking some of my private messages from Josh. Josh is doing a great job producing behind the scenes. Usually he's got a laundry list, and I hate to use that word, guys, because
No, don't use it.
dirty laundry. He usually has a dirty laundry list of questions for me, but the questions in the queue they're empty. So I want to just also say hello and do a quick roll call. And the roll call consists of, when we're police officers, Lisa knows this, Joe knows this, Ed, we were all cops at one time. When you start your tour, you do a roll call with the boss. So let me know where you're watching, city, state, and country. And I'd like to say hello to you in the chat. And if you have any questions, please give the questions, put them in the chat, and I'd like to just take some of these questions going forward. Let's see where we got people coming in from. It's a little delayed. Hello from Toledo. Hello from Colorado. Steve, over the road trucker. Good to see you. Hello from Westchester, Pennsylvania. Hi, Joan. Missouri, checking in. Anybody from outside the country? Oh, Australia. Put another prawn on the Barbie. Thank you for joining. Hello from Alaska. Mississippi, Birmingham. Okay. Hello from Greensville. Good to see you. Texas, the great state of Texas. Folks are checking in from everywhere. The chat's going crazy right now. I love to do this because when I go back and watch it, I see all the ones that I missed. Hello from Scotland. Wow, look at that.
Yes, wow. my fellow Scots.
Yes, Saudi Arabia checking in. Hello. Wow. There's people from all over the world here. Thank you guys for joining. It's much appreciated. I want to go to some of the chatters and look at some of the questions. So I'm going to scan through the chat. If you have some questions, please put them in pertaining to the Brian Laundrie, the search for him. Try to keep it focused on that because that's what this live stream is about. Hello, Facebook users, and I want to say hello to my people on Twitch and Twitter. We are live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Many different sites on Facebook. My police and crime chat group. Go over to my website, DutyRon.com, where you can get all things DutyRon. Lisa Lockwood has her own website. I believe it's lisalockwood.com.
Yes, sir.
You can see all of her stuff, her books, all of her media. She's on Law and Crime Network pretty much quite a bit. I see her out there all the time. She gives all of the segments that Lisa does. I listen to them all. She's awesome. So thank you for your excellent coverage, and your input is tremendous. And that's one of the prime reasons I invited you to come back. You know, every time I have you on, everybody goes crazy for Lisa Lockwood. So I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
So the people are still coming in with their, there's another Scotland. Okay, Jamie Johnson, Scotland the Brave. Thank you for joining.
Hey.
People from Canada who are checking in from the UK. Cuba in the house. Hello, Cuba. He can be in Cuba. Yes, he can. Brian Laundrie could be anywhere. It's really up in the air. What do you think about? Okay, so here's the thing about this is the Facebook the situation where someone was showing a video where the mom was in the backyard doing gardening I'm not even going to show it. I'm just going to describe it because I think it's ridiculous, and that's my opinion. I know I'll get a lot of hate for that, but the mom is reaching into a flower box, an extended flower box, or some type of gardening. It's dirt, and it looks like a hand comes out of the dirt. Anybody can manipulate a video to make it look like that. Please, people, don't think that Brian's hand is coming out from the dirt and that he's alive in the backyard. Shelby Downer, please, just let that go. How's the puppy doing? There he is. There she is. Is this the one that had the teeth pulled?
She did.
Oh.
She had 5 teeth taken out yesterday, and she's doing great. Hi, everybody. This is Pinky. This is my canine.
Yeah, she had those teeth. I have a picture of it. I won't share that with anybody because she had some nice chompers removed. Question. Here's a question coming in from Cynthia Berg. She says, police are recorded saying they knew Brian's whereabouts after he left the parents' home. What are your thoughts on that? And we did speak about that. I talked about that. It's egg on the face. It's a black eye. Police chief. I don't know his name, but I know he was given a presser and he was asked directly by the reporters. Kudos to our reporting team who asked the tough questions. They asked him, do you know where Brian Laundrie is? Do you have eyes on him? And he said, yes. I mean, it wasn't even a gray area. He said yes, and he was already in the win 3 days. So, according to the parents, so
Wow.
that is an embarrassment to say the least. So, thank you for that question. So yeah, people are laughing about it. If Brian is dead, the parents buried him in the backyard. Okay, very funny, polka dot Suzanne.
Hey, Ron, can I ask you? I mean, maybe if any of the panelists
That'd be
know,
easy to find.
what type of area is that? Is it very congested? Is it spread out? Like, are you gonna have speed cameras and easy pass and
Northport, Florida, yes, you definitely could have that type. And you know what? I spoke to Bill about this, and Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff, and
Yeah.
Ed and I had the conversation. If there's any type of easy pass tags, and anybody that knows Florida, you cannot go anywhere in Florida without paying a toll somewhere, and it's
Yeah.
all electronic. I rent cars when I go down to the to Miami to visit my friend. And it's just boom, it's just toll after toll after toll. But there are roads that you can take that would sidestep it. Joe, you want to take this one? Hope Galmarini, nice Irish gal.
Yeah, I thought Steven Bertolino was a real estate attorney. I had heard that too. I can't verify it, but I had heard it. Again, to me, learning that tells me that the personal relationship was more important. And obviously, there's no case yet when they hired him. So rather than his credentials and skills, can I trust this person? Can I talk to him and reveal what I know and
Right.
and make sure that that will be confidential? So I think the personal relationship was just so more important at that stage of the game.
Right. And Bruce Davis asks, DutyRon and panel, what do you think? Brian still in Florida? Lisa? I'll let you take
Well, it's a guess, right? But if he were to off himself, knowing full well that he was going to be caught, that he is guilty, and decided to do it in a way that he put himself near one of those banks and an alligator ate him, we're never going to find this guy.
I agree. What do you think, Ed?
Well, have we vetted or fully vetted the 911 call and the interview with the guy in the Appalachian Trail who said he saw him in a white pickup truck?
Yeah, I would hope that law enforcement did that. You would think that they did, but that's, again, we don't have access to the case file, so we don't know. Joe, what do you think? Is he still in Florida?
I think so. I kind of believe the parents. You know, everybody hates these parents and they want to lynch them, but think about the conspiracy that they would have had to put together, you know, to plot and plan to get him out of the country and then report him missing. Because when you report somebody missing in a case like this, you're bringing down the awesome power of the federal government, the state government, to do this massive search. If they were really concerned about him, that he was fleeing, why report anything? Let it go. But then everyone's like, well, this was a plan. He already got out of the country. That's an elaborate conspiracy. I don't see these parents being involved in that. I think he genuinely said, I need to get off the grid and unplug. I'm going. I'll call you Thursday and I'll be back Friday or whatever. And when he didn't come back Thursday, he didn't call Thursday, Friday, and didn't come back Saturday, they panicked and said, look, you know, something's wrong. Report him missing. So I think he's there. Maybe he had his own plan to flee,
Right.
and didn't reveal it to them. But I don't think the parents are involved in this massive conspiracy and plan to get him out of the country. And I just don't buy that. So I think it kind of shows that they're redirecting their search now,
Right.
that he is there, or it looks like he was recently there. So that's my feeling anyway. And I don't have evidence of it, just trying to, like Ed says, use logic.
Yeah,
You know,
that's the defense attorney side, but everybody gave their opinion. Now I'm going to give mine. So again, you know, listen, if these parents are innocent and don't know what's going on, then they would have come forward, I feel, this is my opinion, and made a phone call and called back the Petitos and the Schmitz. They did not do that. If they were looking for the best interest of Gabby Petito, they would have questioned their son and had their son. I would have dragged my son to the police station and told him to tell This is me. This is, you guys are asking my opinion. So when I look at these parents, these dirty laundry folks, I say to myself, and I know Joe is cringing right now, I say that they are pieces of human garbage. They need to come forward and tell everything that they know and everything that their son has told them on their little dirty camping trip. And if they don't do that, then for me, in my eyes, they're pieces of shit. And I'm sorry, I didn't even bleep it out, but they are pieces of. There you go. So that's my opinion. And listen, like it or not, that's how I feel about it. Now,
there's another case here that is very eerily similar to this. Okay, Eric Robert Rudolph. Does that name ring a bell to anybody? He was a bomber. He did abortion clinics. He did the Olympics in Atlanta, and he did all his dirty work from 1996 to 1998. Injured hundreds, killed a few, and he was on the lam from the FBI, who was looking for him and didn't catch him until 2003. But the FBI didn't catch him. A rookie deputy sheriff caught him.
On a car stop?
No, he was dumpster diving for food while he was on the run.
They talked about that with Brian tonight. I saw a report on one of the outlets. I think it was on I believe it was a Fox affiliate. They talked about if he is out there, he's got to be going. He's got to be foraging for food and going into dumpsters and doing stuff like that. It's just a possibility. Listen, so many great questions coming through in the chat. People are saying Joe Murray is a class act. I tend to agree with that. He is a class act. Everybody on this panel is class act. We all have our thoughts and opinions. But listen, we can't stay live all night long. We're an hour and 15, and I promised Lisa that we would wrap it up in an hour.
Oh, don't put that on me.
I did. It's too late. It's too late. I put it on Lisa. Folks in the chat, if you want us to stay another couple of minutes, put a 1 in the chat. I'll look. And if you want us to wrap it up, hit a 2. I don't think we're going to get a lot of 2s. I don't think we are. Still 3,400 people hanging out here in the chat. Let's look for another good question or two.
Hey, Ron.
Yes, go ahead.
I just so happen to have a thermal imaging camera. If you would like to see it, I can explain how it works.
I would love to see it. Let me put you full screen.
Okay.
There it is.
It's a forward-looking infrared, and I have the screen on right now. So when it looks at my face, you could see red is hot and white is not.
Wow.
Okay, and it gives me the.
Could you put that in the middle, so the middle of our screen? Yeah. Let me see how that looks looking at you. Okay, you got to angle it. Okay, it's got to be on an angle. Yeah, because now we're seeing. Okay, now we're seeing the computer screen. All right,
There you go.
right there, perfect.
Okay.
Wow.
So we use this for any number of things. Looking for shallow clandestine graves, discharged guns that were tossed into the weeds, cartridge casings, a number of different uses for it. And again, and a lot of drones, and I have drones that have this capability as well. And we use those drones to do crime scene walkthroughs, especially in hazardous environments on the outside, exterior hazardous environments, so that we don't have to send a human downrange. We equip the drone with various instruments, meters and monitors to detect radiation, chemicals, so forth. Plus, it has the various cameras, the infrared camera, the thermal imaging camera, the standard HD camera, and so forth. It's amazing what we can do with these things.
That is a wonderful piece of equipment, and some of these drones are equipped with that. And I know our helicopters, a lot of the NYPD helicopters have that technology in it when they're on the search for a perpetrator on the run.
Now, remember what I told you.
Them on grow houses?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you're doing hydroponics and grow houses, you're giving off a heat signature. I can see right through your roof where all the heat lamps are. Okay, even if your roof is insulated. Now, remember, the last episode I told you how we use these to find contusions that have not become visible to the naked eye yet. That the blood is pooling underneath the skin. I could use this, and then I use another instrument called the alternate light source, and I go into UV to try to find those areas where someone was beaten or strangled or grabbed, things of that nature.
Wow. Fascinating. Technology is amazing. Kathy from Texas sent in a $10 super chat, and she said, Can he survive in the Carlton Reserve without fresh water? There's a lot of tricks that you could use. Go ahead, Lisa. You can take
Yes, there are, and the survivalists will know this. They actually do have mechanisms. You can buy it on Amazon that completely filters out the water, and you could sip it through a straw. So I would imagine that he would know and have that resource.
Right.
Yeah.
We heard Jimmy Schmidt, Gabby's dad. He said that they were out on the Appalachian Trail in the past, and he is advanced when it comes to going out and going off the grid. So that's coming off of, that was the Dr. Phil show. I don't know if by a show of hands who saw the Dr. Phil special. I think it was a 2-part. I watched it, and there was a lot of information coming from the family. Again, some people aren't fans of Dr. Phil, but I was watching it because I wanted to hear what the Petito Schmidt family had to say. And they had some harsh words for him. Joe Petito said, "Stop being a coward and come forward." It was heartbreaking to see that family. And, I have a 25 and a 28-year-old. And, if I had a 22-year-old daughter, I would be, I wouldn't be sleeping. And I know these people aren't. So it is really, really a difficult situation. We hope that there is some sort of closure to this criminal side of this case, and that they do either bring Brian Laundrie to justice, dead or alive. And really, that's my thoughts on it going forward. And there's really a lot of speculation running out there. And my advice to people, stay off those fake book groups. There's so many rabbit holes that people will drag you down. Listen to what law enforcement's putting out, whether you have confidence in them or not. When the media and law enforcement put out statements, it's as valid as it could get at the time. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not subject to change, because everything is subject to change. We had the police chief tell us they know where Brian Laundrie is, and the guy was in the breeze. Those are little mess ups that happen along the way. And in this case, it's a huge mess up, and you can't even say that that's a little mess up. That's huge. And you haven't heard anything about it. They haven't revisited that through any type of public information or press releases. So, again, if you want to get all things true crime related from a police perspective with lots of extra guests and extra information, consider hitting the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Follow me on all things DutyRon on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All one word, DutyRon. Let me get that banner up. I know Josh, the producer, is going to be pissed at me if I don't put this up. So I'm going to put it up right now. Subscribe to me on YouTube. Check out my DutyRon.com, and go over and support this great community. I want to say thank you to my special guests, Lisa Lockwood and Joe Murray, the criminal defense attorney that everyone loves to hate. Joe Murray. We all love you, brother. We love you. You're doing great things. He's going to be starting his own channel. You want to talk about that a little bit and plug it?
Oh, I'm so excited. Not to copy what you guys are doing. We really love this true crime community, but I have so many very interesting cases. Ed, do you know John Paolucci?
Yeah, I know John.
Yeah, we're working on a case now in Massachusetts, an appeal. He did incredible recreation work. It's just an exciting case. So I have, some high profile cases. You're going to hear in the news very shortly about our former governor, Elliot Spitzer. I can't say more than that right now, but we have, I represented a young lady from Russia who was accused of extorting $400,000 from him. It was all bogus. It was all fake. And this is like part 2 of that saga that we did battle together.
So
that's going to be out again.
Is this going to be part of your new channel? You'll be talking about this?
Hell yeah. There's a lot of cases that I have that really need media attention. I'll give you an example. I do it in the appropriate way. I had this case where the 112 precinct executed a search warrant at the home of my client. Her husband was the target. He was not at home. In the home, they confiscated, 20 guns, and they charged her with a B felony, first-degree possession of a firearm, 10 or more guns. But they were not real guns. They were airsoft guns, pellet guns. to be a firearm that you charge somebody with, it has to be capable of discharging a round.
Right.
If it's not a firearm. You can't charge them.
So you'll be
And they were
talking about
very
this fascinating case?
obviously. Sorry.
You'll be talking about this fascinating case on your new channel?
Let me just tell you why I use the press, and I do this because for 1 year, because the governor extended the statute of limitations, they kept the felony charges. We got the lab reports from ballistics 3 or 4 days later saying that none of them were capable of firing a shot. They should have been dismissed. They kept that charge for a year. I went to the press 1 week later, dismissed.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
cases like that you need to bring to the forefront. Yes, that's why I'm going to do this. I think it's wonderful.
What's the name of
some
your
of them
channel?
are high profile, and some of them are appeals. Incredible work, like Ed will tell you, what he does and John does. I mean, it's incredible. So yeah, this is going to be an exciting thing.
What's going to be the name of the new channel?
Allegedly Guilty.
Everybody go and put that in your bookmark. Allegedly
Guilty.
I love it. I love it. Lisa Lockwood, you want to talk a little bit about your LisaLockwood.com? What's on there? The bolos. Are you still doing that, or are you doing that?
Yeah, you know what? I've pulled back from doing that right now just because I've been busy with the online active cases and trials, but it's still near and dear to my heart. Be on the lookout with Lisa Lockwood, where I walk people through just ways to protect themselves and to be on the lookout for different seasons, what's happening. As a crime analyst, we tend to have trends. Christmas time, what happens, burglaries, vacations, thefts, vehicular hijackings, what's on the rise. So I like to walk people through just some of the tactics to keep themselves safe.
There's LisaLockwood.com. It's a preview. I'm going to go full screen with it. If you don't mind, Lisa, do I have your permission to show this?
If you have time, it's up to you.
I do. I want to plug your stuff. You spent an hour with me here.
Thank you.
You can see on LisaLockwood.com. There's some sizzle reels and all of the places she's been on: Nancy Grace, NBC, HLN, Forbes, ABC, CNN, Fox, CNBC. And here's a little bit about Lisa. This is her in her SWAT gear. I've never seen a SWAT officer in spandex boots, but I'll take it.
Undercover SWAT.
I love it. So yeah, this is her website. It's a chock full of information. There's lots of media clips here. I think I played a few of these last time. Some of her interviews that she's done and things of that nature. And here's some of her books. Undercover Angel. You can get this on Amazon. I'll link it down below. Reinventing You, the 10 best ways to launch your dream career, and just a whole bunch of goodness here. So everybody go on over to LisaLockwood.com and show her some love. Do you have anything else that you plug in? Some of your appearances? What are you doing? Anything
That's it. Just a regular on Law and Crime Network, and also recently with Joe Donlin on News Nation. So been enjoying it.
Check her out over there on News Nation, and go over to her. You have Do you have Facebook?
I do. Facebook, Twitter, Lisa Lockwood, and Lisa Lockwood 1 on Instagram.
Excellent. All right, I'll link that all down below in the description. Ed, you got anything you want to plug? I know you've written and authored 4 books, and you always get pissed at me when I say this, but Ed, you've got 4 books out there. You want to talk a little bit about some of the training and some of the stuff you're doing across the nation?
Well, I just got back from Providence, Rhode Island on assignment this week. Was teaching for Homeland Security and Louisiana State University, the fire department and the police department there on how to collect chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear explosive materials.
Wow.
And so I just finished that up. And then next week, I'll be in New Jersey working with the New Jersey State Police. I'll be conducting a 40-hour basic bloodstain pattern analysis course for law enforcement agents from all over the state of New Jersey at a New Jersey State Police barracks. And then after that, I'll be doing a State Department assignment working with the Malaysian government after that.
Wow. That's
wow. We're lucky to get you here today. What a schedule.
And I appreciate it. Listen, we're going to be following the hunt for Brian Laundrie. We're going to follow it closely. Lisa, Joe, Ed, you're already a co-host with me, so you're stuck here. Lisa and Joe, would you guys come back and talk about this a little bit more with us down in the?
Of course, yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And to all of my live chatters and the replay viewers, I love and respect you guys. I thank you for being a part of this community. Crime Time with DutyRon. Hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all things social, DutyRon, one word. As I like to end all of these lives, God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. And God bless each and every one of us here in the chat. And all victims of crime and their family, but especially Gabby Petito, family, that at this time they really need all the love and support that they can get from all of us. So good night from New York City. On behalf of Lisa, Ed, Joe, and myself, take care. Be safe.